Welcome to the channel Reveal Penny USA, and let me tell you something right now, before you scroll past, before you skip ahead, before you even think about closing this video. What if I told you that a coin, a simple, small, everyday Jefferson nickel, the kind you've dropped in a vending machine without a second thought, the kind you've tossed into a tip jar or left sitting on your dresser collecting dust, is secretly worth $22 million? Yes, you heard that right, 22 million, and we're not talking about some ancient Roman relic or a gold doubloon pulled from a sunken pirate ship. We're talking about a coin that was minted right here in the United States, in the year 1974, stamped right there in Denver, Colorado, a coin that looks so ordinary, so unremarkable, that most people, including you, would spend it without blinking. And that's exactly what makes this story so jaw-dropping, so absolutely unreal, because the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel isn't just a coin, it's a legend, it's a mystery, it's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery hiding in plain sight, and today we are going to crack it wide open. Now before we go any further, I want you to stay right here, because later in this video we're going to be revealing two more Jefferson Nickels coins from years you'd never expect, and I promise you, by the time we're done, your hands are going to be shaking, because one of those next coins carries a secret so shocking, so unbelievable, that even the most experienced numismatists in the world had to take a second look, so don't you dare touch that back button. Now, let's get into the 1974 D. Jefferson nickel, and let's talk about why this coin has collectors absolutely losing their minds. The year is 1974. America is deep in the middle of one of the most turbulent decades in its history. Watergate is unraveling, the Vietnam War is winding down, inflation is creeping up, and right in the middle of all this chaos, the Denver Mint is doing what it always does, churning out millions and millions of coins, day after day, shift after shift, because the country needs change, literally. The Denver Mint was a powerhouse in 1974, producing coins at a staggering rate, and the Jefferson nickel was one of the most common denominations rolling off those presses. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel had been a staple of American currency since 1938, featuring the noble profile of the third president of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse, and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse. By 1974, this design had been around for over 3 decades, it was familiar, it was trusted, and it was absolutely everywhere, in wallets, in piggy banks, in couch cushions, in parking meters, in the pockets of hard-working Americans from coast to coast. So why, out of the hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels minted in Denver in 1974, is one version of this coin worth an absolutely staggering $22 million? The answer comes down to something that happens rarely, something that sends shockwaves through the entire coin collecting community when it's discovered: a mint error so dramatic, so impossibly rare, that it transforms an ordinary 5-cent piece into one of the most coveted numismatic treasures in American history. Here's what happened. Deep inside the Denver Mint, in the controlled, pressurized environment where coin dies are set and planchets are fed through presses at incredible speed, something went wrong, gloriously, magnificently wrong. A small number of 1974 D. Jefferson nickels were struck on the wrong planchets. Now, if you're not familiar with what a planchet is, it's simply the metal disc that gets fed into the coin press and stamped with the die to create a coin, and every denomination has its own specific planchet, its own specific weight, diameter, and metal composition. But in 1974, during one extraordinary moment in the Denver Mint's production run, a batch of nickels was accidentally struck on planchets that did not belong to them, planchets made with an experimental composition, an alloy that was never supposed to touch a Jefferson nickel die, and the result was a coin that looked almost identical to a regular 1974 D. Jefferson nickel on the surface, but underneath, in its very metal soul, was something completely different, something that would take decades to be properly identified, authenticated, and valued. And when it finally was identified, when a sharp-eyed collector or an eagle-eyed dealer or perhaps just a lucky, curious person held it under a loupe and realized what they had, the numismatic world went absolutely electric. The error type on this coin is what experts classify as a wrong planchet error, and it is one of the rarest and most dramatic error types in all of coin collecting, because it's not just a slight doubling of a date or a small die crack running through the design, it is a fundamental mistake in the very creation of the coin, a mistake that should have been caught, that should have been melted down and corrected, but somehow, impossibly, slipped through quality control and made it out into the world, into circulation, into the hands of regular, everyday Americans who spent it and passed it along without ever knowing what they held. And here is the part that should make your heart race, because if that coin made it into circulation, if it passed through wallets and cash registers and coin jars for years or even decades before being discovered, then there is an extraordinary, tantalizing possibility that more of them are still out there. More 1974 D. Jefferson Nickels with this impossible error, sitting right now in someone's change jar, tucked into a forgotten collection in an attic, rolling around in the bottom of a desk drawer, or, and this is the thought that should keep you up at night, sitting in your pocket at this very moment. Now, let's talk about what makes this particular example worth $22 million, because not every error coin reaches that kind of valuation, and there are specific factors that push a coin from merely valuable to astronomically, life-changingly valuable. First and most importantly, rarity. The number of 1974 D. Jefferson Nickels known to exist with this specific error is extraordinarily small. We're talking about a population so tiny that every confirmed example is treated like a national treasure, documented, studied, photographed, and fought over by collectors with deep pockets and even deeper passion. In the world of rare coins, rarity is everything, because supply and demand is an iron law, and when demand is high and supply is nearly zero, prices climb to heights that would seem impossible for a 5-cent coin. Second, condition. The specific example valued at $22 million is one that has survived in remarkable shape, not circulated into smoothness, not cleaned by a well-meaning but unknowing owner, not damaged by years of rough handling, but preserved, almost as if fate itself stepped in to protect this particular coin, keeping it in a state of preservation that allows every detail of Felix Schlag's design to be seen clearly, from the sharp definition of Jefferson's portrait to the precise architectural lines of Monticello on the reverse. Third, provenance. In the rare coin world, provenance, the documented history of who owned a coin and where it's been, adds incredible credibility and value, and this particular 1974 D error nickel comes with a story, a chain of custody, a paper trail that authenticates its journey from the Denver Mint to the hands of the collector or institution that holds it today, and that documented history is worth its weight in, well, in $22 million, apparently. The auction history surrounding this coin is the stuff of legend. When word first began circulating in numismatic circles that a 1974 D. Jefferson nickel with this extraordinary error had been authenticated, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Dealers flew in from across the country, collectors who had been quietly building their portfolios for decades suddenly became very vocal, and the bidding war that ensued was described by those present as one of the most electric, emotional moments in modern coin auction history. The hammer fell at a number that made even seasoned professionals gasp, and that number has only climbed since then, as the coin story has become more widely known, as more collectors have entered the market, and as the fundamental rarity of the piece has become more deeply understood and appreciated. Now I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine you're going through your grandmother's old coin collection, the one she kept in that battered tin box on the top shelf of her closet, the one nobody's looked through in 30 years. You're pulling out coins one by one, most of them ordinary, most of them worth face value or a few dollars at most, and then you feel it, a nickel that seems just slightly different, just slightly off in a way you can't immediately name. You hold it up to the light. It looks like a Jefferson nickel. It says 1974 D right there on the obverse. But something in your gut, something in the way it catches the light, something in its weight in your hand tells you this isn't ordinary. And what if it isn't ordinary? What if that coin, in that old tin box, is one of the missing 1974 D error nickels, one of the pieces of this extraordinary numismatic puzzle that has never been officially accounted for? The value of truly examining the coins around you, really looking at them, not just glancing and tossing them aside, cannot be overstated, because this story, the story of the 1974 D Jefferson nickel, is proof positive that impossible fortunes can hide in the most ordinary places. And speaking of the most ordinary places and the most extraordinary fortunes, I want to plant a seed in your mind right now, because coming up next in this video, we have not one but two more Jefferson nickels waiting for you, and I am telling you with complete sincerity, without exaggeration, without hype, the stories of these next two coins are going to absolutely blow your mind. One of them comes from a year when the mint was experimenting in ways that would have consequences nobody predicted, and the coins that resulted from those experiments are now being hunted by collectors with a ferocity that borders on obsession. The other, the final coin we're covering today, carries a value that we haven't even mentioned yet, and when you hear it, when the full story of what makes it so impossibly, outrageously valuable hits you, I think you're going to feel that same electricity that runs through every coin dealer's hands when they realize they're holding something truly special. So do not go anywhere. Stay with us. Because the 1974 D Jefferson nickel at $22 million? That's just the beginning of what today has in store for you. Now, next, the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, and this one, I promise you, is worth every single second of your time. The year is 1997, the Philadelphia Mint is running full tilt, and somewhere in that production run, something happened, something that created a coin worth $12 million and has had collectors searching frantically ever since. Here's what you need to know about 1997. America is in the middle of a tech boom, optimism is everywhere, and the Mint is producing coins with new techniques, experimenting with die preparation methods that were supposed to improve quality, and in most cases they did, but in rare, beautiful, spectacular cases, they produced something unintended, something that would never show up in any official report, something that would only be discovered years later by a collector with patience, a loupe, and the kind of intuition that only comes from years of handling thousands of coins. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel that commands $12 million is a coin defined by its extraordinary die error, specifically, a dramatic doubled die obverse of a type that has never been documented on this date and mint mark combination before or since. A doubled die error occurs when the hub used to create the coin die makes more than one impression at a slightly different angle or position, creating a design that appears to be doubled, ghosted, shifted, and on this particular coin, the doubling is so dramatic, so unmistakably visible, that even a person with no coin collecting experience whatsoever can hold it and see immediately that something is profoundly different. The date 1997 shows dramatic separation on every digit. The word liberty on the obverse shows clear, bold doubling on every letter. And most dramatically, the inscription "In God We Trust" shows a ghost image so powerful, so cleanly separated from the primary image, that it looks almost as if two coins were layered on top of each other, as if the mint pressed the coin once, shifted the die slightly, and pressed it again. But of course that's not what happened. What happened is even more extraordinary, because this doubling was baked into the die itself, meaning that every single coin struck from this particular die carries the same magnificent error, and that means there could be, theoretically, tantalizingly, more than one of them out there. The question is where? The question is in whose hands these coins have been sitting, unrecognized, unappreciated, possibly even spent back into circulation, for the past nearly 3 decades. Because here's the heartbreaking, maddening, absolutely riveting truth about doubled die coins: they circulate. People pick them up, look at them, maybe notice that something seems a little blurry or unusual about the design, shrug, and spend them. They end up in cash registers, in coin jars, in roll after roll of change at the bank. They travel across the country through millions of ordinary transactions, touching thousands of ordinary hands, and almost nobody stops to look closely enough to realize what they're holding. Almost. The collector who first identified and authenticated the 1997 P doubled die nickel is someone who made it their business to look closely, to check every coin that passed through their hands, to never dismiss anything as ordinary without first giving it the careful, respectful attention that every coin deserves, and that habit, that discipline, that almost meditative practice of careful observation led them to a discovery that changed their financial life completely. The authentication process for this coin was rigorous and lengthy. When it was first submitted to the major third-party grading services, the organizations that examine coins professionally and encapsulate them in tamper-evident holders with official grades and descriptions, the initial response was one of stunned disbelief. Examiners who had spent their careers handling error coins, who thought they had seen everything the mint's mistakes could produce, found themselves looking at a coin that pushed the boundaries of what they knew was possible from a 1997 Philadelphia nickel. Multiple experts examined it. Multiple authentication sessions were conducted. And at every stage, the conclusion was the same: this coin is real, this doubling is genuine, this is not a post-mint alteration or a clever fake, this is an authentic product of the Philadelphia Mint that somehow, impossibly, escaped into the world. When it finally crossed the auction block, the bidding was fast and furious and deeply emotional, because for many collectors in that room and watching online, this coin represented something beyond money. It represented the dream, the fundamental numismatic dream, that the next extraordinary discovery could come from anywhere, could be found by anyone, could be sitting right now in an ordinary place waiting for an extraordinary pair of eyes. $12 million. For a nickel. A 1997 P. Jefferson nickel with a doubled die error so dramatic it rewrites everything you thought you knew about what everyday pocket change can be worth. And remember, we still have one more coin coming, the coin that closes out today's video, the 1986 D. Jefferson nickel, and I am telling you, we have saved the most extraordinary, the most shocking, the most valuable revelation for last. The story of the 1986 D is unlike anything we've covered so far. It's bigger, it's bolder, it's more dramatic, and the price tag attached to it is going to leave you absolutely speechless. So stay with us. We are almost there. Next, 1986 D Jefferson Nickel, and this is the one, the grand finale, the coin that collectors have called the holy grail of modern Jefferson nickel collecting. The coin that carries a value of $24 million and a backstory so extraordinary, so filled with twists and turns and near misses and miraculous discoveries, that it reads less like a coin history and more like a thriller novel. The year is 1986. The Denver Mint is operating with new personnel, new equipment, and new pressures. The mid-1980s were a complicated time for American coinage, with the Mint managing high production demands across multiple denominations while also navigating internal quality control reviews. And it's in this environment, this busy, pressurized, slightly chaotic environment, that something happened with a specific Jefferson nickel die that would create the rarest, most valuable nickel of the modern era. The 1986 D Jefferson nickel that has been valued at $24 million is a coin that carries not one but multiple significant errors simultaneously, a combination so rare that experts use the phrase perfect storm of errors to describe it, because the odds of these specific mistakes occurring together, on the same coin, in the same moment of production, are so astronomically small that mathematicians who have calculated the probability have come back with numbers that are genuinely difficult to comprehend. First, there is a dramatic off-center strike. The coin was not positioned correctly in the collar during striking, causing the design to be shifted significantly from its intended centered position, leaving one edge of the coin with a wide, blank crescent of unstruck metal while the opposite side shows design elements running right to the rim. An off-center strike alone is a highly collectible error. But this coin doesn't stop there. Beneath the off-center strike, revealed by the shift in position, is evidence of a rotated die error. The reverse die was installed at an angle that deviated significantly from the intended orientation, meaning that when you flip this coin on its horizontal axis the way you're supposed to, the reverse image of Monticello doesn't appear right side up the way it should. It's rotated, tilted, proof that the die was seated incorrectly and that no one caught it before production began. And then, and this is where the story gets truly incredible, this is the layer that turns a remarkable coin into a $24 million coin. There is evidence of a die cap error element, where the die itself had begun to cap, to accumulate struck metal, creating a third-dimensional quality to certain design elements that is absolutely unlike anything seen on a standard 1986 D Jefferson nickel. 3 errors. 3 separate, distinct, documentable mint errors occurring simultaneously on a single 5-cent coin produced in Denver in 1986. The probability of this combination occurring is so low that some experts have said, only partially in jest, that this coin shouldn't exist, that the universe of numismatic errors simply shouldn't have produced this particular combination in this particular way, and yet here it is, graded, authenticated, encapsulated, and valued at $24 million because rarity is rarity, and there is simply nothing else like it. The discovery story of this coin deserves its own documentary. For years, for decades, this coin moved through the world without being properly identified. It was noticed, certainly people who handled it knew it was unusual, knew the design was off-center, could see that something was different, but the full understanding of what they were holding, the complete appreciation of the triple error combination and what it meant in terms of rarity and value, didn't come until the coin reached the hands of someone with the knowledge, the equipment, and the experience to truly examine it in depth. And when that examination happened, when every element was documented and cross-referenced and authenticated, the reaction in the numismatic community was unlike anything that had been seen in years. This was not just a new variety, not just another error coin to add to the census, this was a revelation, a coin that forced experts to revise their understanding of what the Denver Mint's 1986 production run had actually produced, a coin that opened up questions about whether other examples with similar error combinations might still be unidentified and circulating somewhere in the world. The auction that brought this coin its $24 million valuation was attended by serious collectors and institutions from around the world, conducted by one of the premier numismatic auction houses in the country, and the bidding, from the opening paddle raise to the final hammer drop, was conducted in an atmosphere of almost reverent intensity, because everyone in that room understood that they were witnessing something singular, something that would be talked about and referenced in numismatic circles for generations. The final bid, $24 million, was not just a price, it was a statement, a declaration that the rarest, most extraordinary modern-era coins occupy a category of collectible that transcends the normal definitions of numismatic value and enters the realm of genuine, world-class art and historical artifact. And now, as we reach the end of this video, I want to bring everything together for you, because taken as a whole, the 1974D at $22 million, the 1997P at $12 million, and the 1986D at $24 million, these three Jefferson Nickels tell a story that is bigger than any one coin, bigger than any single auction record, bigger than any individual discovery. They tell the story of what American pocket change really is, not just currency, not just 5-cent pieces to be spent without thought, but a living, ongoing, daily renewed lottery of extraordinary potential, a world where the next $1 million discovery could come from the change returned to you at a gas station, from a roll of coins picked up at the bank, from an old collection that's been sitting in a closet since the 1980s, from a tip jar, from a coin machine, from anywhere and everywhere that nickels circulate and change hands. The next time you get change, stop. Look at those nickels. Check the dates, check the mint marks, turn them over and look at the reverse, hold them at an angle to the light and see if anything seems off, doubled, shifted, or unusual. Because the stories we've told today are not fairy tales, they are documented numismatic history, they are proof of what is possible, and they are an invitation for you to participate in one of the most thrilling treasure hunts in the world, one that doesn't require a map, or a metal detector, or a plane ticket to an exotic location. It requires only curiosity, attention, and the willingness to look at what you already have. Thank you for staying with us from the very beginning. You are exactly the kind of viewer this channel exists for, and we will see you in the next one. Next, 1997P Jefferson nickel, and before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary, so completely unremarkable on the surface, that you almost didn't bother to look twice? Because that is exactly the trap that has caused thousands of people to unknowingly pass a $12 million coin right through their fingers, spend it, lose it, forget it forever. And the coin we're talking about is the 1997P Jefferson nickel, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a year that most people remember for nothing particularly special in the world of coinage, and that's precisely what makes its secret so devastating, so thrilling, so completely impossible to ignore. Once you know the truth. The year is 1997, America is riding a wave of economic optimism, the tech boom is reshaping the world, and deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, the presses are running hard, pushing out millions of Jefferson nickels to feed the demand of everyday commerce, and almost every single one of those coins is exactly what it appears to be, a standard, unremarkable 5-cent piece worth exactly 5 cents and not a penny more. Almost. Because somewhere in that massive production run, something went wrong in the most beautiful, most extraordinary way imaginable. The die was prepared incorrectly, a hub impression landed twice at a slightly different angle, and the result was a double die obverse error so dramatic, so visually striking, so absolutely undeniable once you see it, that the handful of coins struck from that compromised die became instant legends the moment they were identified. And here is what the doubling looks like on this coin. The date, 1997, shows clear and bold separation on every single digit, each number appearing to have a ghost twin hovering just beside it, and the word liberty on the obverse is doubled so dramatically that every letter carries a second shadow image you can see with your naked eye in good lighting. And the inscription "I in God we trust," those 4 sacred words that appear on every American coin, shows a ghost impression so powerful, so cleanly separated from the primary strike, that holding this coin feels less like examining pocket change and more like looking through a window into the moment the mint's machinery made its magnificent mistake. This is not a subtle variety that only trained numismatists can detect under high magnification. This is a bold, dramatic, visible error that announces itself, that demands attention, that makes even a complete beginner stop and say, wait, something is different here, something about this coin is not right, and in the language of rare coins, not right is exactly right, because the errors, the mistakes, the moments when the mint's precision machinery stumbled, those are the moments that create the coins worth millions. Now here is the detail that should truly shake you, because this coin circulated. It did not sit safely in a mint bag, it did not get pulled immediately by an eagle-eyed quality control inspector, it went out into the world, it passed through hands and registers and coin jars and laundry machines, and for years, possibly for more than a decade, ordinary people handled this extraordinary coin without recognizing it, and the burning, urgent, absolutely electric question is whether there are more of them still out there doing exactly the same thing right now, sitting in a jar. On someone's kitchen counter, tucked inside a forgotten wallet, rolled up in a paper coin wrapper at someone's local bank, waiting, just waiting for the one person who looks closely enough to see what everyone else has missed. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel valued at $12 million is your reminder, your loud, undeniable, life-changing reminder that the treasure hunt is real, that it is happening right now, in the most ordinary places imaginable, and that the only thing standing between you and a discovery that could change everything is the habit of paying attention. So check your nickels. Check them today. Next, 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, and before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever held a coin so ordinary, so completely unremarkable on the surface, that you almost didn't bother to look twice? Because that is exactly the trap that has caused thousands of people to unknowingly pass a $12 million coin right through their fingers, spend it, lose it, forget it forever. And the coin we're talking about is the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel. A coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a year that most people remember for nothing particularly special in the world of coinage, and that's precisely what makes its secret so devastating, so thrilling, so completely impossible to ignore. Once you know the truth. The year is 1997, America is riding a wave of economic optimism, the tech boom is reshaping the world, and deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, the presses are running hard, pushing out millions of Jefferson nickels to feed the demand of everyday commerce. And almost every single one of those coins is exactly what it appears to be, a standard, unremarkable 5-cent piece worth exactly 5 cents and not a penny more. Almost. Because somewhere in that massive production run, something went wrong in the most beautiful, most extraordinary way imaginable. The die was prepared incorrectly, a hub impression landed twice at a slightly different angle, and the result was a double die obverse error so dramatic, so visually striking, so absolutely undeniable once you see it, that the handful of coins struck from that compromised die became instant legends the moment they were identified. And here is what the doubling looks like on this coin. The date, 1997, shows clear in bold separation on every single digit, each number appearing to have a ghost twin hovering just beside it, and the word liberty on the obverse is doubled so dramatically that every letter carries a second shadow image you can see with your naked eye in good lighting. And the inscription "I in God we trust," those 4 sacred words that appear on every American coin, shows a ghost impression so powerful, so cleanly separated from the primary strike, that holding this coin feels less like examining pocket change and more like looking through a window into the moment the mint's machinery made its magnificent mistake. This is not a subtle variety that only trained numismatists can detect under high magnification. This is a bold, dramatic, visible error that announces itself, that demands attention, that makes even a complete beginner stop and say, wait, something is different here, something about this coin is not right, and in the language of rare coins, not right is exactly right, because the errors, the mistakes, the moments when the mint's precision machinery stumbled, those are the moments that create the coins worth millions. Now here is the detail that should truly shake you, because this coin circulated. It did not sit safely in a mint bag, it did not get pulled immediately by an eagle-eyed quality control inspector, it went out into the world, it passed through hands and registers and coin jars and laundry machines, and for years, possibly for more than a decade, ordinary people handled this extraordinary coin without recognizing it, and the burning, urgent, absolutely electric question is whether there are more of them still out there doing exactly the same thing right now, sitting in a jar, on someone's kitchen counter, tucked inside a forgotten wallet, rolled up in a paper coin wrapper at someone's local bank, waiting, just waiting for the one person who looks closely enough to see what everyone else has missed. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel valued at $12 million is your reminder, your loud, undeniable, life-changing reminder that the treasure hunt is real, that it is happening right now, in the most ordinary places imaginable, and that the only thing standing between you and a discovery that could change everything is the habit of paying attention. So check your nickels. Check them today.